You are nothing but a burden on us. Your father left nothing for us.
Oh God, am I really that bad? That everyone leaves me? Who do I even have left now?
Fatma?
Fatima, a girl whose innocence made people often say that she was not ordinary. This innocence wasn't just on her face. It lived deep within her soul, a soul that life was about to test in ways she could never imagine. But no one knew that behind that innocent face, there was a story slowly falling apart. And this breaking wasn't just of a heart, it was the beginning of an entire world collapsing. She was born into a religious family, where her mother taught children the Quran, and her father was a respected reciter at a madrasa. From a very young age, Fatima made the Quran her life. But then, one day came that shook her entire existence. The day after which her laughter would fall silent forever. When she was only 12 years old, her mother was diagnosed with a disease so terrifying that even hearing its name makes hearts tremble. Cancer. And within just a few months, her mother passed away forever. And as she left, she took Fatima's childhood with her. After that, the house was no longer the same. It was no longer a home, just walls, empty of warmth and emotion. Time passed. Fatima began to grow up, and her father, Mr. Rafiq, was constantly lost in one thought. How will my daughter live alone? That fear eventually forced him to make a decision. He got married again. A new woman entered the house, Shagufta, and with her arrival, the peace of the house slowly began to disappear, though no one realized it at first. After some time, she had a daughter. Her name was Saba. Years went by. Fatima turned 22, and Saba was now 15. But the difference in their upbringing was like the distance between the al-ard and the sky. Fatima was the embodiment of kindness, patience, worship, and khidmat, while Saba was rude, careless, and just like her mother, cold-hearted. And this difference would soon turn into zulm of the worst kind. Until one day, their father fell seriously ill. Saba never cared, never served him, not even once. One day, in a weak voice, Mr. Rafiq said, "Daughter, please give me some water." Saba made a face, stomped her feet, and said, "I'm not giving you anything." And she walked away. In that moment, a father's heart broke 1,000 times, yet he remained silent. Seeing this, Fatima rushed in. She held her father, gave him water, and when he vomited, she didn't hesitate. She cleaned it with her own scarf. This was the moment where humanity appeared in its most beautiful form. Tears filled Mr. Rafiq's eyes. "May Allah bless you, my daughter." But on the other side, Shagufta and Saba didn't care at all. They would often beat Fatima and make her do all the housework, and she endured everything silently, as if pain had become her destiny. Her helpless father watched everything. His heart cried tears of blood, and one day, that very sorrow took his life. But his death was not just the end of a man, it was the beginning of a new trial. Fatima became an orphan, and from that very day, the real test of her life began. After her father's death, Shagufta grew even more fearless. Now there was no one to stop her, no conscience, no fear. She began to zulm Fatima openly, from morning till night, endless work, and in return, nothing but taunts. "You're a burden on us. Your father left nothing for us."
You are nothing but a burden on us. Your father left nothing for us.
Every word carved a new wound into Fatima's heart. On the other side, Saba spent her entire day on her phone, talking to boys, and Shagufta treated her with love and affection. In one house, two realities existed, one of Zulm and one of blind love. Eid would come, and expensive clothes would be bought for Saba. While Fatima spent Eid in the same old worn-out clothes, happiness was written in one person's fate and patience in the other's. One day, Fatima gathered the courage and said softly, "Mother, can I have new clothes too?" Shagufta replied angrily, "Did your father leave behind a treasure for you?" That one sentence broke something deep inside Fatima, yet she remained silent. Fatima said nothing. Just like always, she chose patience. Then one day, a woman from the neighborhood came with a marriage proposal for a wealthy man. But greed awakened in Shagufta's heart, and greed has a way of blinding justice. She immediately pushed Fatima aside and arranged the proposal for Saba instead. That very day, Fatima was burning with a high fever. Her body was weak, but Zulm never took a day off. Yet Shagufta didn't let her rest. First clean the entire house, then cook the food. Fatima kept working, with trembling hands, her body burning with fever, but not a single word came from her lips, because she had learned that in this house, complaints had no value. When the guests arrived, Shagufta strictly warned her, "You will not come in front of them." She was afraid that the truth might reveal itself. She feared that Fatima's radiant face might outshine Saba. Food was served. Everyone praised it. Shagufta quickly said, "Saba made all of this." And once again, the truth was buried. Fatima stood in a corner, silently watching everything. Her silence was screaming, but no one was listening. After the guests left, a strange silence filled the house. But inside Shagufta, a new fear had already taken birth. What if they had seen Fatima? This wasn't fear, it was the weight of her own lies. That thought kept eating her from the inside. That very night, Shagufta made a decision that would change Fatima's life forever. Because sometimes, a single decision is enough to break an entire life. Within just a few days, in a rush, she arranged Fatima's marriage to a man she didn't know, didn't understand. His name was Nabil, a man addicted to gambling, lost in alcohol, buried under heavy debts. And this truth was still hidden from Fatima. For Fatima, this news felt like the day of judgment, but just like always, she chose silence. Maybe this is Allah's will. The day of marriage arrived. No joy, no celebration, just two pairs of clothes and countless questions in her eyes. This wasn't a wedding, it was a silent sacrifice. At the time of farewell, Fatima looked at her home one last time, a place where she never found peace, yet somehow it was still her world. Silently, she left for her new home, and in that very moment, a new chapter of her life began, the most difficult one, because the real truth was still hidden and the pain was far from over. Nabil's house was small and broken, cracked walls, dust covering the floor, and a suffocating silence in the air. This wasn't a home, it was a reflection of a shattered fate. On the very first night, Nabil came home, drunk. His eyes were red, his steps unsteady. He pushed the door open, and when he saw Fatima, he paused for a moment, as if he was struck by her beauty. But the very next second, he laughed. "A girl like you, in my destiny?" Was that sarcasm or hidden helplessness? It was hard to tell. Fatima lowered her gaze. There was fear in her heart, but also a strange kind of patience. Days passed, but nothing changed. Nabil came home drunk every night, shouting, screaming, and sometimes he even raised his hand on her. Every day was a new test, and every night a new wound. But Fatima continued to tahammil every zulm as if it were a test from God. She cooked for him on time, washed his clothes, took care of his every need. But in return, she received nothing except 2 meals a day and cold indifference. In Nabil's eyes, there was no love, no respect, only an emptiness that had become a wall between them. And yet, inside Fatima's heart, a small hope was still alive. One day, my husband will change. One day, Nabil came home, terrified. His face had turned pale, his breathing was heavy. Fatima rushed to him, placed a glass of water in front of him. "Are you okay?" In a trembling voice, he said, I'm ruined." There was fear in his voice and defeat. He confessed. He had lost a huge amount of money in gambling, and the people he owed were now after his life. "If I don't return the money, they will kill me." Hearing this, the ground beneath Fatima's feet seemed to disappear. That night, when everyone was asleep, Fatima sat alone in her room. She laid down her prayer mat and fell into prostration. "O Allah, my husband is my only support. Protect him. I accepted every test as your will. But now, please help me." Her prayers were not just words, they were the last hope of a broken heart. Her voice trembled, tears flowed from her eyes, and then, suddenly, the atmosphere of the room began to change. A soft light spread, as if moonlight had descended into the room. A strange, beautiful fragrance filled the air. This moment blurred the line between the seen and the unseen. Fatima lifted her head in shock, and then she saw something she had never imagined. In the center of the room stood a breathtaking figure, dressed in white, a glowing face, eyes filled with an unearthly light. Fatima's heart began to race. She stepped back in fear. Who are you?" The figure smiled gently and said softly, "Do not be afraid, Fatima. I have come to help you. I am the Jinn Princess, Gulshanza." Even the silence of the room seemed to pause at that name. Fatima froze. "I have come by the command of Allah. Your faith, your patience brought me here." Tears streamed down Fatima's face. Gulshanza continued, "Do you remember your mother's last gift?" "The gold earrings," Fatima whispered. "Yes, I still have them. Take them and give them to your husband. Allah will place barakah in your sacrifice." Was this a command or another test? Even Fatima could not tell. Without asking a single question, Fatima lowered her head, because in her heart she believed this was from Allah. The night was still not over. The light slowly began to fade, and before her eyes, Gulshanza disappeared. But after that night, Fatima's life would never be the same. Fatima sat there for a few moments. Her heart was still racing, but inside her, a strange peace had settled. Was it faith, or a sign of a greater test ahead? Even she didn't know. She quickly stood up and took out a small bundle, the one she had always kept safe. It was her mother's last memory, those gold earrings, given to her with the words, "My daughter, keep these safe, always." Tears filled her eyes. For a moment, her heart trembled. Can I really give these away? These weren't just earrings, they carried her mother's last breath. But the very next moment, she closed her eyes and whispered, "Oh Allah, I sacrifice everything for your Riza." The sacrifice that changed everything. The next morning, she placed the earrings in Nabil's hands. He looked at her in shock. "What is this?" In a soft voice, she said, "These are my mother's last memory. Sell them and repay your debt." Nabil was stunned. "You are sacrificing your mother's memory for me?" Fatima simply replied, "You are my responsibility." These words carried the depth of love and the peak of patience. Those words hit his heart like a storm. For the first time, tears filled his eyes. He fell to the ground, crying uncontrollably. "I am such a sinner, and you are so pure." This was the moment. A broken man was reborn. Something inside him shattered, and something new took its place. Repentance and a new beginning. At that very moment, he performed ablution and offered prayer. "O Allah, from today, I repent for all my sins. Guide me to the right path." Fatima watched silently, tears of happiness in her eyes. For the first time, she was witnessing the reward of her patience. At that moment, the same light filled the room again. Nabil looked around in shock, and then he saw her too, Gul Shanza. He trembled in fear. What is this?" Fatima told him everything. Hearing this, Nabil broke down in tears again. "O Allah, even a sinner like me received your mercy." Gul Shanza smiled. "No one is deprived of Allah's mercy." She extended her hand. In her palm was a small amount of black coal. "Take this. Place it in a clay pot. As long as you do not stare at it constantly, it will never finish. In fact, it will keep increasing. Use it to start a business." With a gentle smile, she disappeared into the light, and the room returned to normal as if nothing had happened. Fatima and Nabil did exactly as they were told. They placed the coal in a small clay pot. On the first day, they took a small amount and began selling it. This was no ordinary coal. Whoever applied it, their eyesight improved. Some even claimed they could see again. Slowly, the news spread. People came from far and wide. Nabil worked honestly, never overcharging anyone, and day by day, his business grew. Their home began to change. Where once there was hunger, now there was peace and barakah. This blessing wasn't just from the coal, it was the result of patience, sacrifice, and faith. Love grew in Nabil's heart. He respected her, listened to her, often saying, "If it wasn't for you, I would have never changed." Fatima would smile and silently thank Allah. Shagufta, blinded by greed, married Saba into a wealthy family, but reality was very different. That man was cruel. He beat Saba, humiliated her, and Shagufta cried day and night. Now the same woman was breaking who once broke someone else. She remembered every zulm she had done to Fatima. This is punishment for my sins." And while Fatima and Nabil found peace, Shagufta burned in the fire of her own actions. Because this is the rule of life. What you give to others returns to you one day. And Fatima, even today, she teaches children about faith just like her mother once did. And in every prostration, she thanks her Lord. If you believe patience is never wasted, and that unseen help can change everything, then this story was for you. And trust me, walking away from stories like this might just be a mistake.